And welcome to the second episode of OMG JK. I'm Jason Kincaid.
And I'm OMG Siegler.
So I want to kick off our second episode by showing this great logo that was sent in by a fan. It's the thought that counts, which brings us to our first topic.
So one of the things that was big, since it's been a week since our first show, so the Apple antenna issue is obviously at the forefront of discussion for a lot of things. Apple finally released a statement talking a little bit about what the issue was, and basically they're saying it's a software bug. Mm-hmm. That's
to quote them, I think they said the formula they use is totally wrong.
Right. So it's not so much that they're going to offer a fix for any reception issues that are coming up. They're offering a fix for showing that they were in any way good in the first place, really.
So let me ask you this: do you buy that?
Yes, kind of.
Ugh, come on.
So here's the thing. It's like when you're using the iPhone, I mean, this is just common sense. If you pick it up and nothing is working, I mean, no one's going to buy it. That's just going to be the way it is. I mean, are people really going to buy something and use it?
If Apple tells them to.
Well, but okay, maybe at first, but then, you actually do have to use this thing.
Okay, so here's my response to that. So Apple says the formula they use is wrong. So why are the bars dropping when someone touches the antenna? Because if it's entirely solid, there has to be some element where the hardware is involved there, because touching that spot does something.
That's the thing. I mean, it is partially the phone's fault. I mean, there is something definitely, I've seen it on
There is something wrong.
There is something too. Well, there is something to the fact that when you have the antenna on the outside and it's certainly more exposed than other phones, are used to,
sure,
that leads to a degradation in signal.
Which sounds like Apple did something wrong. Also, one other point that I loved in that statement, Apple says they're making bars 1, 2, and 3 taller so they're easier to see.
Right.
Because that was the issue right there.
Well, yes. And also they're finally, for whatever reason, just now listening to what AT&T has been saying for what they should use for the signal calibration. Yeah, the whole thing's a bit weird.
Okay, so next topic. Foursquare just raised a bunch of money, $20 million Series B, and they also had a privacy issue. So I know you've definitely been tracking Foursquare since they first got started.
Right.
In terms of the funding, where does this put them compared to the rest of location-based services?
Yes, so they have, they've slightly over 20 million now in total, because they had, slightly over 1 million first round, but so, or an angel round. Mm-hmm. And so this puts them well ahead of Goala, which is, I think has like 8 to 10 million, something around there in funding. Mm-hmm. And there's always been this rivalry between the two of them, but there's other players, of course, Looped and all them. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Foursquare the other day just passed, 1 million check-ins in one day. So that's going to be a pretty tall hill to climb. I know you've been thinking about what happens when Facebook and stuff enters it, and you certainly don't think it's the end of the game.
No, definitely not the end of the game. I think early days for sure. And one other thing I wanted to touch on was the privacy issue. Actually, it really wasn't that big of a privacy issue. No one seemed to really care that much. But Wired did an article. Basically, a white hat security guy basically scraped pages of Foursquare's site for like 3 weeks and got 875,000 check-ins.
Right. It was the same thing as if you sat there and looked at each screen. Right. Obviously, a human couldn't do that, but a computer sniffer could do that.
And so why do you think no one actually seemed to care? Because this is a location-based service.
Because it's so ridiculous. I mean, you're using this service to share your location. Right. If you're so concerned about there being, your location getting out there, don't use these services. What's so hard to understand about that?
I think that's true with Foursquare because they're explicitly telling people there, but for where you are as opposed to Latitude, where
that's a little bit different, where it's running in the background and stuff. That whole thing is still just not ready to go. I mean, I know other companies are trying to do that now. Loop just released something where they have this location history, so it's always running in the background, and now with the new iPhone 4 stuff, they can run in the background. That's a little bit more of a privacy concern.
I do think location and privacy are going to be really intertwined, and they need to lock this stuff down soon. Okay.
Good timing.
We've got a timer on the topics.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the kin. This is pretty funny. I mean, Microsoft already killed the kin. It was live for all of 6 weeks, I think. Mm-hmm. I think there was a New York Times report that stated as a fact that they sold less than 10,000 units of it.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I've actually never seen one in the wild.
I haven't either. I don't think many people have. I think
no one in San Francisco owns one.
A giant squid,
I mean, for me, the thing I kept asking myself, why would Microsoft have gone ahead with this in the first place? It seemed so obvious with the initial launch. The reviews were terrible. It's not like Microsoft is not filled with stupid people. They had to know
Right.
this
But,
wasn't going to be a killer device.
they put a lot of time into it, I'm sure. They made the Danger acquisition. It's kind of funny how the whole thing played out, because they made the Danger acquisition while Google made the Android acquisition. Both were started by Andy Rubin, and so it's kind of like a tale of two different companies, what ended up happening. So I'm sure Microsoft poured a lot of money into this project, and obviously they put a lot into the marketing, those kind of strange ads about it.
The movie, you go to a movie preview and it's like following some girl across the country
Right.
with her can.
They were betting on the teen market, thinking like, oh, well, they don't really care about necessarily all these smartphone features. They just care about texting and uploading pictures and using all this other stuff. But that's, just not the case.
So you think it was just like Microsoft did a ton of focus group testing?
Probably.
Because I don't see how it could have made it past one focus group.
Well, yeah, I mean, it ultimately
If I'm a
didn't
teenager,
make it past the most important focus group.
It reminded me sort of the Peak. I don't know how that one's doing. It's just like exclusively
Right.
focused on like email and tweeting, I think.
Right, it's kind of like a little
Dedicated device.
touchscreen device just for emailing, yeah.
I think that one's faring better than the Kin, but it just
Sure. I mean, I can't think of a project that has been killed more quickly, a major project.
honestly, that's probably a good thing. If the Kin had coexisted with Windows Phone 7, whatever it's called,
Right, Windows 7 series.
I don't think that would have
8.
gone well.
Yeah, and they supposedly moved the Kin team over to focus on that, and I think that's smart. I've seen a little bit of the Windows Phone 7 Series 7 in action, and
Windows 7 Phone Series.
it's pretty impressive actually. I think just from a first glance at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, compared to the Kin, that thing is far and away better. So
yeah,
maybe this is a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it's
despite all that money Microsoft poured
on
down
one
the
hand,
drain
it's pretty impressive that they were actually able to kill it so quickly, knowing they would get so much shit for it.
So props to Microsoft for pulling that off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good timing again. Okay.
So last topic, Hulu Plus. So this has been rumored since like Hulu came out, basically.
Right. How can this possibly be free?
And so for those who missed the launch, $10 a month. You get content from 3 networks. You got ABC, Fox, and NBC.
Everyone with CBS.
You don't have CBS.
Right.
I don't think you have Viacom either, so no Daily Show. And the benefit you get for this is a better backlog of shows and more episodes. So do you think this is going to work?
I mean, it could. It depends. Okay, the big part of it is probably the partnerships that they sign. They're getting it on the iPhone. It's already they have an app already available for iPhone and iPad. The Plus stuff isn't working yet, I don't think. But so they're also going to put it on Xbox, on PlayStation,
PS3 this summer, Xbox 360 early next year. It comes on some Blu-ray, DVD players. They're trying to build to get it.
So that's good. I mean, that's smart. That's what Netflix has been doing. The distribution deals that Netflix has made is really the key to all of their success that they've had, I think. Like me, I want to just get rid of cable completely. I hate it. It's such a ripoff. You pay $100 or more a month, for hundreds of channels when you probably only want, maybe a dozen at most, maybe less than that.
It's probably like 10 shows total.
Yeah, right. So if you could do this a la carte, that'd be awesome.
I don't think we're there yet, though.
No.
I don't think this isn't a cable killer. It's a good compliment. I think this is great. If you're lying in bed and you don't want to roll over to your couch, or you just pull up your iPad and you're watching Hulu. But you can already kind of do that with Netflix, and each of these networks,
right.
or ABC has a dedicated.
I think kind of the complement of all these things together. You do Netflix, you do Hulu Plus, you do Xbox, you do Apple TV maybe, you do something else. And all these together, I mean, that ends up being a lot of boxes, which is kind of a pain in the ass, which most consumers aren't going to use. But
to me, the other thing I think this really needs is a lot of good content. Because I think the current shows only go so far. You can already get the most recent 5 episodes for a lot of shows on Hulu anyway without paying.
Right.
I think
and there will still be free content.
Exactly.
Available, which is
so
important.
I think if you had a backlog of all those shows you kind of wanted to watch like 5 years ago, but you're definitely not going to buy.
Right.
Say, I would definitely pay for that.
Yeah.
Who knows if they're actually going to pull it off. So I think that does it for today's topics. Join us next week for the 3rd episode of OMG JK. Thank you guys for tuning in.